The sun hung low over the desert plains, a pale orange disk that seemed to float in a sky streaked with endless clouds of dust. Mara tightened the strap of the small pack on her back and glanced down at her children. Aiden, only 6, clutched her hand, his eyes wide and nervous. Lyra, barely 4, held a small stuffed animal tightly against her chest, her fingers curling around it as if it were a lifeline. The wind whipped around them, carrying fine sand that stung their skin, and the horizon shivered with heat waves and strange flickering lights. Mara could feel the storm before it fully arrived. It was unusual, unlike anything the colony had ever seen. The weather had been unpredictable for months, but this felt like a living thing, moving fast, angry and hungry. She pulled her jacket tighter and held the children closer. "Stay close to me," she said, her voice calm but firm. She needed them to trust her, to believe that they would survive. The settlement behind them was small. Just a few domed shelters clustered together, with the shimmering solar panels and wind turbines scattered around like tiny sentinels. Most of the colonists were already inside, securing what they could. Mara had been gathering supplies when the sky first started to twist and glow. The strange swirling colors above the dunes were mesmerizing and terrifying at the same time. She had never seen anything like it. Violet and gold streaks, sharp arcs of light that danced like lightning but without thunder. "Mommy, why is the sky so weird?" Aiden asked, tugging on her sleeve. His voice trembled just enough for her to hear the fear beneath the words. "It's just the sky, honey," Mara replied, though her heart raced. Sometimes the sky likes to put on a show. She tried to smile, but the corner of her eye caught the first shards of glowing particles spinning down from the clouds. They glimmered in the sunlight, small, bright, and strangely heavy in the air. The storm hit suddenly. It wasn't rain or snow, it was more like a blanket of shimmering energy sweeping across the desert. Mara could feel it on her skin, a tingling warmth that made her muscles tense. She knew immediately that the children would not survive if they were hit directly. The protective domes of the settlement were struggling already. She could see the panels shaking violently, the support frames bending under the pressure. A soundless wave of fear and urgency rolled through her body. Mara didn't think twice. She dropped the pack to the ground, kneeling in the sand, and pulled Aiden and Lyra close. She wrapped her arms around them, her body a shield against whatever the storm would throw at them. The children pressed into her, shivering, and she whispered promises she hoped she could keep. "Mommy's here. Nothing will hurt you. I promise." The storm's particles began to swirl around them. They sparkled and shimmered like tiny stars, but there was a strange heaviness to them. Each gust of wind threatened to knock them down, to throw sand and energy against them. Mara dug her heels into the ground, feeling the grains shift and slide beneath her, and held her children tighter. Her hair whipped across her face, and she could barely see through the sand, but she focused on their breathing, their small hands, their trusting eyes. Time seemed to stretch endlessly. The sky above twisted into unnatural shapes, the colors brightening into blinding hues. Mara felt a strange vibration in the air, as if the planet itself were humming. The storm wasn't only outside. It seemed to touch her bones, testing her, challenging her. Yet she did not falter. She could not falter. Not with these 2 lives in her arms. As the wind pushed harder, Mara whispered to herself, a quiet chant that became a rhythm to match the storm. "Hold on, hold on, hold on." The children clung to her as if their lives depended on it, which they did. Lyra pressed her cheek into Mara's chest, and Mara could feel the rapid beat of her heart. Aiden's small arms wrapped around her waist, trembling but determined. Mara adjusted her position, kneeling lower now, using her body as a living shield. Each spark of energy that brushed past her burned with heat, yet she absorbed it, letting it pass over her without reaching them. Somewhere in the chaos, a thought emerged in her mind, sharp and sudden. This was no ordinary storm. Something about it was alive, conscious in a way that felt almost intelligent. It flowed with purpose, as if testing her, probing, trying to see how far she would go to protect her children. Mara's chest tightened. She had faced hardships before, yes, but never like this. And never with such precious stakes. The wind roared around them. Small rocks and sandstones bounced like children themselves, and the sky above cracked with light that was not lightning. Mara could see shapes moving within the storm, faint silhouettes that seemed to shimmer and shift, almost like the storm was made of countless tiny creatures. She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply, focusing on the warmth of her children. Their lives were in her hands. Suddenly the ground trembled beneath them. Mara opened her eyes to see a line of golden light slicing through the horizon, growing wider and brighter by the second. The storm paused as if startled by something unseen. The shimmering particles swirled around them in chaotic spirals, then slowed, drawn toward the light. Mara felt a tugging sensation, a pull in her chest that was neither violent nor threatening but compelling. Aiden whispered, his voice barely audible over the roaring wind. "Mommy, what's happening?" Mara's lips parted, but no words came. She could only hold them tighter as the sky above tore open. A massive glowing rift stretched across the heavens, revealing an expanse of stars and moving lights far beyond anything she had ever imagined. The storm seemed to melt away at the edges, drawn into the rift, leaving a calm that was almost too sudden. From the rift, enormous shapes began to descend. Ships, or perhaps living constructs, shimmering with a gentle light. They moved gracefully, floating down as if the air itself carried them. They were not threatening. Mara felt it in her bones. These beings, or whatever they were, radiated calm and intelligence. She instinctively knew that they had seen her stand firm, protect her children when everything else had failed. The storm was gone in an instant. The air was cool now, fragrant with something she could not name, like flowers she had never seen. Sand no longer stung their skin. Mara opened her eyes fully, blinking against the sudden clarity of the sky. The rift remained, vast and brilliant, a doorway of impossible beauty. Her children stared up in awe, their fear replaced with wonder. Lyra's small hand pushed against Mara's chest as if asking for reassurance. Mara nodded, her heart swelling with relief and pride. Somehow they had survived. Somehow she had kept them safe. The shapes descended closer, and she could see patterns moving across them, like light flowing across water. They hovered a few meters above the desert, and a warmth radiated from them, gentle and inviting. Mara realized that whatever this was, it was intelligent, and it recognized her love, her courage. Her small acts of protection had been seen, noted, and respected. She whispered to her children softly, almost afraid to break the spell. "It's all right now. We're safe." Aiden smiled, the first time in what felt like hours, and Lyra hugged her stuffed animal, letting out a relieved giggle. Mara laughed quietly, tears running down her face, feeling the weight of the past moments lift. She had shielded them, yes, and now the universe, or something beyond it, had answered. The ships did not touch the ground, but lowered glowing tendrils that swirled around the family. Mara felt the strange sensation of being lifted, weightless and secure. She kept her arms around the children, holding them as tightly as she had during the storm, but this time with no fear. The tendrils moved like gentle arms, cradling them in a light that was soft and warm. Mara realized, even as her heart thudded with astonishment, that this was more than a rescue. It was an acknowledgement. Love, courage, and the instinct to protect. These were qualities that transcended worlds, that could be seen and respected across the stars. She had not fought with weapons. She had not shouted or cried. She had simply held her children close and refused to let them go. And somehow that had mattered. The desert below looked tiny from this perspective. The settlement a patchwork of domes and lights. Mara held her children and looked up at the glowing ships, the rift in the sky, and felt an overwhelming sense of awe. Their lives had changed in an instant, but it was not fear or violence that had changed them. It was something far older and stronger. Human love, human courage, human resilience. The wind carried no more sand. The strange energy particles were gone. The only movement was the soft glow of the ships above and the gentle hum of the rift in the sky. Mara held her children and whispered again, "We are okay. We are safe. Always." And for the first time in hours, she truly believed it. The desert below became a blur of gold and orange as Mara, holding her children tightly, floated toward the glowing ships. The hum of the rift above was steady, calming, almost like a heartbeat. The tendrils of light that carried them moved gracefully, wrapping around them without pressure, a gentle embrace that reassured Mara that no harm would come. Her mind raced with questions, but her first thought was simple. They were alive, and her children were safe. Aiden, still holding her hand, whispered, "Mom." "What are they?" "I don't know, honey," Mara replied softly, "but I think they're friends." She could feel a strange warmth radiating from the tendrils, a soothing energy that seemed to recognize her intentions. The children leaned against her, feeling the safety she provided. The ships were unlike anything Mara had ever imagined. They were enormous, their surfaces shifting like liquid light, reflecting the sky and the rift above in mesmerizing patterns. They hovered with absolute silence, yet the energy that radiated from them was alive, palpable and intelligent. Mara could sense that these beings were aware of every movement, every thought, every emotion of the humans in their hold. As they approached one of the ships, a panel of light on its surface glowed and parted like a doorway opening. Mara felt a gentle pull forward, guiding them inside. The interior was spacious, filled with soft, undulating light that changed color like a sunrise on another world. There were no sharp edges, no machines, only smooth curves and patterns that seemed to respond to their presence. The air smelled faintly sweet like blooming flowers, and it carried a warmth that made her muscles relax. The children looked around with wide eyes. Lyra's tiny hands reached out to touch the glowing walls, and when she did, the light responded, spreading in gentle waves that danced like water. Mara watched, fascinated, as the ship seemed to recognize their curiosity, welcoming it rather than ignoring it. A voice, not spoken but felt, filled Mara's mind. It was calm, warm and soothing, with a tone that seemed to wrap around her thoughts like a blanket. You have shown courage. You have protected life. You are recognized. Mara's breath caught. She realized that these beings communicated not through sound, but through thought and emotion. She could feel their understanding, their recognition of her love for her children, as if it were a language beyond words. I protected them, she whispered aloud, though the voice had already conveyed it. I couldn't let them get hurt. Yes, that choice, that instinct is rare. It is honored here. Aiden tugged at her sleeve. Mom, are they going to take us away? Mara shook her head gently. I don't think so, sweetie. I think they're helping us. The energy around them pulsed in waves of reassurance, and the children relaxed against her, letting their small fears melt away in the presence of something so vast and kind. The ship moved forward, carrying them toward a larger chamber, a space filled with floating lights that formed patterns and symbols she could not understand. They were intricate, beautiful, and alive. Mara felt that these symbols were a form of knowledge, perhaps a record of the being's history or thoughts. As she watched, the lights shifted to mirror her own feelings, the protective instinct she had shown, the fear she had felt, the love she had for Aiden and Lyra. The beings, Mara realized, understood not just words or actions, but the essence of a person. And in that understanding, there was recognition. Humanity, in its courage and love, mattered. A soft glow approached them, forming shapes that resembled gentle beings of light. They hovered near, not menacing, not cold, but curious and benevolent. Mara instinctively kept her arms around her children, but the glow seemed to smile in understanding, respecting the bond she had shown. We observe your species, the voice continued. We see what you protect, what you cherish. Your courage is simple yet profound. It is recognized. Mara felt tears prick her eyes. She had never imagined that something so vast could understand the simple acts of a mother protecting her children. And yet here they were, acknowledging it, honoring it, and in their own way welcoming her family. Aiden stepped forward, small but brave. Mom, why did they save us? Mara smiled softly, brushing his hair back. Maybe because they saw what we're made of. Because they saw our hearts. The ship shifted slightly, responding to her words. Mara felt that it was communicating in agreement. Love is a strength. Protection of life is a virtue. These qualities matter, not only here but across the stars. They were led to a larger observation deck, a place where the desert stretched below them like a golden sea, and the rift above shimmered with endless possibilities. Mara could see the settlement, small and fragile yet standing. She thought of the other colonists, unaware of the miraculous event above them. Her heart ached for them, but she knew they would survive as well. This intervention, this recognition, was not meant for everyone, but it was a sign of what humanity could achieve. You may ask questions, the voice said. We will answer what can be shared. We do not interfere with your world beyond what is necessary to preserve life. Mara nodded, taking a deep breath. Why us? Why did you save us? Because you showed what your species can be at its best. Your courage, your love, your care for life. It resonated with us. It was recognized, and it called us here. The children clung to her again, but this time with awe rather than fear. Mara realized that this encounter was more than a rescue. It was a lesson, a reminder that the best parts of humanity, its empathy, courage, and love, were worth preserving. worth noticing, even by beings from far beyond the stars. A soft light formed in front of them, images of their planet's history and the storms that had plagued the colony. Mara saw patterns in the natural events, cycles and flows of energy she had never understood. The being showed her that the storm was a part of the planet's natural rhythm, a force of energy that could nurture or destroy depending on understanding. "We cannot control the planet entirely," the voice explained, "but we can guide and protect those who show they cherish life." Mara felt a surge of gratitude and understanding. The storm had tested her, and she had endured. And now, in this moment, she realized that the universe was vast, but it had room for empathy, for recognition of courage and care. The children's eyes shone with wonder as they explored the space around them. Lights shifted and swirled in patterns that seemed like music, gentle waves of energy that responded to movement and thought. Lyra laughed softly as a tendril of light formed a small shape resembling her stuffed animal, floating beside her as if it had come to life. Aiden reached out to touch it, and the light gently pulsed in response. Mara smiled, watching them embrace the strange, beautiful world around them. "You are safe here," the voice said, "and you may choose to return when you wish. The path to safety and knowledge is open, but it is your choice." Mara looked at the children, then back at the glowing beings. She felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that their lives were preserved, that their courage had mattered, and that love had been recognized in a way she had never imagined possible. "Will they go back to their world?" Aiden asked, still clinging to her. "Yes," Mara said softly, "and we will too. But we can learn from them. We can see what we're capable of, and we can carry that with us." The rift in the sky shimmered again, a reminder that this connection was not permanent, yet it was lasting in its impact. Mara understood that the universe was watching, learning, and acknowledging humanity in ways they could not yet comprehend. Their courage, their love, and their care for one another mattered. The light began to shift, guiding them back toward the desert. Mara held her children, feeling a sense of accomplishment and relief. They had been tested, and they had survived. The storm below was no longer threatening, the desert quiet and still, but the memory of the rift, the glowing ships, and the recognition they had received would stay with them forever. As they touched the ground again, the tendrils of light slowly receded, leaving them unharmed but forever changed. Mara looked at her children, smiling, knowing that the bond they shared had carried them through the unimaginable. She had shielded them, yes, but now the universe itself had acknowledged their courage. Aiden and Lyra ran a few steps ahead, laughing and spinning in the sand, free of fear. Mara watched them, tears running down her face, her heart full of love and pride. She had protected them, and the universe had answered. In their survival, she saw the power of human courage and the undeniable strength of care and love. And somewhere above, the rift shimmered one last time, a silent promise that the universe had seen them, had recognized the best of humanity, and would remember. The desert was quiet now. The storm that had threatened their lives had vanished, leaving only the soft golden sand shimmering under the morning sun. Mara held her children's hands as they walked back toward the settlement. Their small feet left prints in the sand, and the wind carried a gentle warmth instead of the fierce gusts from before. It felt like the world itself was breathing a sigh of relief. Aiden glanced at his mother. "Mom, do you think they'll come back?" Mara smiled softly. "I don't know, honey, maybe. But even if they don't, we've learned something important. We've seen what courage and love can do. That doesn't go away." Lyra, holding her stuffed animal close, nodded. Her eyes sparkled with wonder. "I liked them, Mommy. They were nice." "They were," Mara agreed, squeezing her hand. "And they taught us that helping and protecting each other matters more than anything." As they approached the settlement, Mara could see the other colonists emerging from their domes, blinking against the sunlight. Many had been sheltered and unharmed, but they looked around in confusion, aware that something extraordinary had passed over their heads. Mara felt a sense of quiet pride. She had protected her children, yes, but in doing so, she had inspired a reminder for everyone around her. Human courage and love could endure even the most overwhelming challenges. Her neighbors came forward, offering smiles and cautious greetings. Mara explained simply, "The storm is gone. Everything is safe. We just need to rebuild." She did not go into detail about the glowing ships, the rift in the sky, or the beings that had recognized her courage. She did not need to. What mattered was the lesson, not the spectacle. The colonists began their work immediately. Together, they repaired the damaged domes and reinstalled the solar panels that had been twisted and bent. Mara joined them, carrying supplies and lifting panels when she could. The sense of shared purpose brought a new energy to the settlement. There had been fear and uncertainty before, but now there was hope. A quiet, steady hope that they could face the planet's challenges and survive. Aiden and Lyra ran ahead, helping where they could, gathering small tools and passing them to the adults. Mara watched them, feeling a profound joy in their resilience. Even after the fear they had endured, the children laughed and worked. It was as if the experience had strengthened them, showing that courage and care could coexist even in the smallest hearts. As the day went on, Mara reflected on what had happened. The glowing ships, the rift in the sky, the beings that had recognized her instinct to protect. She realized that the universe was not indifferent. Somewhere out there, intelligence beyond comprehension observed life, noticing the courage, love, and care that defined humanity, and in that observation, there was hope. The colonists finished repairing the largest dome and gathered near the central area of the settlement. Mara stood with her children, watching as the first plants were replanted, as water systems were checked, and as the small community began to thrive again. There was no fear now, only determination and cooperation. One of the settlers, an elder named Ceylon, approached Mara. His face was lined with years of hardship, but his eyes were bright with curiosity. "Mara," he said quietly, "I saw the sky last night. Something extraordinary happened. Did you see it too?" Mara nodded. "Yes, something beyond our understanding, but it reminded me of what matters most." She looked at her children, who were busy helping others, laughing as they worked. "It's not about fear or danger. It's about love, care, and courage. That's what the universe recognizes." Ceylon smiled, shaking his head. "I see that now. Maybe we've been so focused on survival that we forgot our strength comes from each other." Mara felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had not only protected her children, but had also reminded the colony of a simple truth. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in tools or weapons, but in the hearts that cared for one another. As the days passed, the colony adapted. They built new structures with stronger materials, designed to withstand storms, and improved their systems to better protect life. Yet they did so with care and creativity, incorporating ideas that encouraged harmony with the planet rather than simply resisting it. Mara's example, her bravery and love, inspired others to approach challenges with patience, empathy, and courage. The children thrived in this environment. Aiden became more confident, exploring the dunes carefully, always returning to Mara's side. Lyra developed a fascination with the natural patterns of the desert, the way the sand shifted in waves, and the tiny creatures that thrived despite the harsh conditions. Both children carried with them the lesson that even in the most threatening situations, care and courage could make a difference. One morning, Mara took the children to the highest dune near the settlement. From there, they could see the horizon stretching endlessly, the sun casting long shadows over the sand. "Look," she said, pointing to the sky. "Do you see that?" The children looked up, scanning the vast blue sky, now calm and serene. There was no rift, no glowing ships, yet Mara felt the presence of something larger, something beyond comprehension. She felt the same warmth she had felt in the ship, the recognition of courage and love. "Do you think they're still out there?" Aiden asked, his voice soft. "Maybe," Mara replied. "Or maybe they've left a reminder that our actions, our care for each other, are noticed even by the stars." Lyra hugged her stuffed animal and whispered, "I like that. It makes me brave." Mara hugged her children tightly. "Yes, you are brave, and you are loved. That is the most important thing." The settlement flourished over time. With each passing day, the colonists grew stronger, not just in skill but in unity. They shared knowledge, supported one another, and approached the desert with respect and creativity. Mara's courage and the recognition it had received from beings far beyond their understanding became a quiet legend among the colonists. It reminded them that even the smallest acts of protection, love, and bravery mattered. Mara herself continued to care for the children, guiding them through challenges, teaching them patience and compassion. She told them stories of courage, of hope, and of the universe that had acknowledged their small but powerful hearts. The children listened wide-eyed, imagining worlds beyond their own filled with lights, stars, and beings who could see and appreciate the best parts of humanity. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the desert with shades of red and gold, Mara stood at the edge of the settlement, watching the children play. Aiden built small towers of sand, careful not to topple them, while Lyra traced patterns in the sand with her fingers. Mara felt a profound sense of peace. They had survived the storm, encountered wonders beyond imagining, and returned stronger. Her heart swelled with pride as she watched them, remembering the night she had shielded them with her own body. That act of love and courage had rippled far beyond their understanding. It had been noticed, acknowledged, and honored. Mara realized that humanity's strength was not just in survival, but in the choices to care, protect, and love. The sky above was calm, clear, and vast. Mara breathed in the cool evening air, feeling a connection to something larger, something eternal. The desert, the stars, and the universe itself seemed to whisper that human courage and love mattered, that the simplest acts of protection and care could reach far beyond what anyone could see or imagine. Aiden ran to her side, holding a small stone he had found. "Mom, look. It's shiny." Mara smiled, taking the stone in her hand. "Yes, it is. Just like you. Strong, bright, and full of potential." Lyra joined them, her tiny hand slipping into Mara's. "Mommy, will we always be brave?" "Yes," Mara said firmly. "As long as we care for each other, as long as we love and protect life, we will always be brave." And so, under the vast calm sky, Mara and her children returned to their home in the settlement. The desert stretched endlessly before them, but they were no longer afraid. They had faced the storm, encountered the wonders beyond the stars, and discovered that courage, love, and care were forces stronger than any danger. The colony thrived, guided by the lessons of survival, unity, and human resilience. Mara watched her children grow, proud of the bravery they carried in their hearts. She knew that the universe had recognized them, and that recognition was not a fleeting moment, it was a promise. A promise that the best parts of humanity would always matter, and that love and courage could illuminate even the darkest of storms. As night fell, the stars sparkled above like distant beacons. Mara held her children close, whispering softly, "We are brave, we are strong, and we are loved, always." And somewhere far beyond, across the vastness of space, the universe seemed to respond in quiet acknowledgement, as if it had watched, learned, and smiled upon the small, courageous family standing together in the desert of a distant world.